Hello and welcome to another edition of the Writer's Room. It is I, your host, J.Ishiro Finney, author and alien in a human suit. Beside me is the ever buxotic and beautiful night editor.
Hello, everybody.
And the crazy dragon herself, or the crazy Ghidorah, Florida woman. Fiona?
Yes. I know. I'm sneezing, so I didn't want anybody to hear me sneeze.
You don't want to share your mighty dragon roar?
Oh, guys, it sounds like a Hooverback. Like, yay, thanks, pollen. Thanks, allergies.
Oh, geez. We're going to be having that in about 2 days.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so for tonight's episode, we will be discussing writing darker settings without going bleak or nihilistic, because we are right now in this day and age, current year, we have a severe problem with people confusing dark with completely bleak and nihilistic or hopeless.
Mm-hmm.
But before we do that, let's first cover a few things. People are getting unsubscribed to this channel, so make sure you're subscribed. Hit the like button and let everyone know we're live so they don't miss the show.
Mm-hmm.
Second, Fiona, tell them about what is it Norton is doing?
Yeah. Basically, okay. My channel got a hit with a warning by the YouTube bot because some of the links I had on two of my videos was defunct, and Norton flagged it as a threat. So the YouTube bot said I had threatening links in my thing, even though Norton nowadays, the users could do input and say if a site is threatening, and some people are very ideological. So I wouldn't recommend putting links directly in your videos. I'm going to make a super blog post of linking everything that I consider important, and I'll probably link that at the end of my videos if I want to promote people.
You said that writer Brad Torgeson was being hit?
Yeah, I had
inappropriate material?
Well, they said it was caution or like dangerous, and then when you hover over it, it says there's no threats like viruses, but it's still on their caution thing, and that is also flagged by the YouTube bot, and that could get you strike on your channel. But they're also striking
a conservative writer.
Yeah, they're also striking channels for 9/11 clips if you use any kind of clips with 9/11. All sorts of random crazy stuff. And Voxus Productions, if you guys know the little puppet show that makes fun of all sorts of things, well, he put out a video, saying that there's a Terminator algorithm out there targeting all the innocent channels, which means, more likely if you have wrong think, you're going to get targeted. But like the Phoenix, I'll keep making Google accounts and coming back if I get fired.
Okay, so this is a time to tell everyone if you're using Norton, ditch them and use Bitdefender. Better program, won't screw with your computer as much, doesn't spy on you, and it isn't Norton.
And they give you free VPN, actually.
Yeah, and free VPN. So, with that, we got 23 people listening. I think that's enough to get started.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the fact that right now, in our films, in our books, comics, there seems to be a real weird idea that dark setting means bleak and hopeless.
Yep. And unfortunately, just like with everything else, the Japanese seem to grasp this a lot easier than Western propaganda right now. Stuff like Fist of the North Star, or even Berserk, or even Vampire Hunter D.
Oh, yeah.
You got to have a light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, they understand that concept of story, that you do need to have some form of hope. I mean, yes, the Russians have that dark bleakness down to a fine science, and where, yes, it's like cutting your wrist, but you're enjoying every moment of it. But not everyone can be Russian. So,
well, I think the Russian philosophy of writing is that the glass isn't just half empty; it's full of piss.
Yes.
That's Russian writing.
Yes.
Yeah. I even had to read a few of those things in college. It's just like, oh my God. Pessimism doesn't even begin to cover it.
But I would say for us, for a very long time, at least through the 80s and I guess to a degree the 90s, we were pretty good at the fact that living with the specter of destruction and death, but finding hope and meaning in it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you look at a film like the very first Terminator film. I mean, what does she have to look forward to? The nuclear war. But it still ends with her not as a victim, her not giving up, her knowing that there is a future.
And that there is hope.
Right. There was a period, I went through a real dark period in the aughts, in which I really had to just sit down and face my post-traumatic stress. And in that period, I had never been all that interested in horror films ever in my life. I mean, aside from Alien and The Thing, I wasn't really much of a horror viewer. And then during that period, I just started watching every horror film I could. And I think to some degree it was an endurance test. It was okay, well, let's look at the hideous. Let's see if I can take it. Let's see how far I can go. And I don't know if I can explain that logic. You were the one watching me going through this. What would you say, Kat?
That was a very dark time, and you were dealing with a lot of very dark things personally. And I think watching horror films was therapeutic.
Yeah, and for me, either the film, what I came to find out about horror is that 90% of it was laughably awful and not scary at all. I mean, it might be gross and gory, but it wasn't really frightening.
Yeah.
But then about another 10% of it, the thing that really got me was realizing that one of the aspects of good horror films is it's much like a war movie, and that is you're seeing humans put through the most extreme situations in war. There you go. That what's more extreme than war? Well, in horror films, the most extreme is, well, the impossible happens. The dead rise, ghosts come after you, you become possessed by demons. I mean, the impossible essentially happens, and from there, it's kind of a crucible. And what you find out is, there's a saying. Some people would say, at our worst, in the worst of times, we see the best of humanity come out. And there are other people say, no, that's when our monsters come forward. And no, it's both. What it is in those situations, the masks come off, and you see people for what they really are. And the best of people come out, and the worst of people come out. And in horror, when it's done right, for me at least, it was like watching them go through a crucible. And who's from humanity survives? Who makes it out alive? Who is able to get through it? And Event Horizon is a great example of that. The captain sacrifices himself for the lives of his crew. So that would be my example, was that it's the dark setting is putting the people through a crucible, but they don't have, it's who succumbs to it and who rises above it.
Yep. And even with that movie, you see the antagonist go below while the heroic people go above. I mean, not everybody makes it out, but the ones that do, they make it out because other people, sacrificed for them. It's not a complete downer of an ending. I mean, I would say even Terminator 2 has much more of an uplifting ending than even the first one.
Well, that was kind of the point of the second one.
Yep.
Well, for people who
the second one's kind of a very 90s film.
Yeah, but it's still a good film, and really I did think that it was a pretty decent, in my opinion, there are some flaws, but overall I thought it was a pretty decent bookend to the story, and it never should have gone any farther, or if it did, not the way it went. But then you get films like 28 Days Later, and just talking about people at their worst and just the crucible that our characters go through. And I found that there's a lot of debate on which ending people prefer, because it kind of tells how they dealt with that crucible. The ending I hate is the one where our main protagonist lives. He shouldn't have lived. That's the all is love ending, in my opinion, of that film. Where
that's Love Conquers All.
Yeah, the Love Conquers All ending of that particular film. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, I'm referencing the film Brazil, which is another film where does have a dark ending, but it doesn't necessarily have to be considered there's a lot of debate on the ending on that one. But anyway, I'm sorry, my brain is all over the place and I lost myself.
That's okay. That is perfectly fine. I think you made sense.
Okay, good. I'm glad I made sense to someone because I didn't to me.
Yep. Oh man, but yeah, again, the Japanese are still getting it a bit better because Fist of the North Star is an excellent example of you have heroic people doing heroic things, and the setting itself is fairly bleak.
But that's kind of an understatement, isn't it?
Yes, but what's interesting is like the game that also came out where it has an even happier ending for Ken because his lady love doesn't die from cancer. Yeah. Because unfortunately in the original stuff, she eventually does fall to cancer because, the radiated wastelands and stuff. But some of his allies actually give her a longer life by healing her somewhat. So Ken's able to have a kid with her.
Which then would be hope for the future. Yeah.
I mean, but for right now though, I'm not even leaning towards like bittersweet endings. I'm like, I want my hopeful cake with hopeful side pickings, please.
Well, the one that surprised me was my 2 Case File Arkham books. In film noir and pulp noir, often the endings are downbeat endings, or nobody's happy at the end, or you've just got to accept the loss. And what was interesting with Case File Arkham 1 and 2 is I knew how the stories were going to end, for the most part. I just didn't realize that both would have a coda that wrapped it up with a bow that was actually a happy ending. And it was kind of a weird surprise in both cases that, especially the first one, Flynn, Detective Hank Flynn, is just put through hell. I mean, he's chased by ghouls. He's beat up. By the end of the first book, he's got like, his face is all beat up. He's covered in cuts. He's been beat up by 2 mobsters, tortured, put in the back of a car or the trunk of a car. Ghouls try to eat him. And then he has to go tell his client what he's discovered. And it's a horrible, horrible revelation. I can't tell you what happens next because it would ruin the story. But I'm thinking, okay, this is the ending. And then I just kept writing. And my God, at the end, you have it's like, wait a minute. He does have a happy ending. He finds meaning in his life. He finds someone to live with.
So, let's just put this question out there on the table. We have these dark stories out there. So what turns it from being, a dark story to being a bleak story? Is it really the ending? The ending has to be somewhat uplifting, or is there something else that can turn it from being dark to bleak, or
something
vice
else.
versa?
It goes beyond that because you can have bleak endings or dark endings and it not be bleak. And I would say that would be the let's say everyone dies, but the monster's still defeated and they've saved mankind. That's still a good ending.
Kind of like that Sunshine movie where they had to reactivate the sun.
Yeah. And everyone dies.
Yeah, that was one I could. Oh, an example. Like I remember seeing one movie one time where the end point was everybody faded away on the ship because it took them hundreds of years to reach another planet that was habitable. And
it just Pandorum?
Not Pandorum. No, it was like some sort of. It was a foreign film, but it was Arcania, or some. But it was really. It was like I only watched it once, but it's just like I was just like, oh my good lord, it was a train wreck of bleakness. Like they got off track. They were supposed to go to Mars, and then they get hit by like electrical interference, and they end up going past Mars, past the solar system, to where like about 5 or 6 generations are born on this ship, and then they all die out, slowly. I'm like, oh my lord,
that's kind of bleak.
Yeah, it was just. Oof. Uh, I can't remember what it's called though, but if I find out, I'll link it at some point. Because it was just like one of those random movies when I was watching something like late on night, and there's just like, what is this? And I thought it was going to be something about them being able to heroically fight. Like, nope, nope.
Well, if it's a foreign film, that's very European.
JW says, I'd say bleak is when the characters lose more than they can ever regain, even if it's a triumphant ending, like the end of Excalibur or the Seven Samurai.
That'd be. I think that's fair to some degree. But it also depends on the larger context. I mean, maybe the character loses, but to what end?
Yeah.
I'll have to agree with the chat. I don't want to watch The Mist again. I saw that once. That's all I need. Because apparently he actually ended it a different way in the book, where they managed to get out in time and nobody committed suicide at the end, where he
Well, but getting back to the point, what makes it? Is the ending what makes it a good? Fixes the bleak ending or bleakness of the story. The ending, no, it has something to go deeper than that. And I would say it's the humanity of the story itself. One of my big problems with the reboot of Battlestar Galactica is the first season and a half were excellent. I mean, these were people fighting to survive. They had the worst of all possible things happen, and they were working their way forward. And
then it got bleak for bleak's sake.
Right. And there was, everybody was a scumbag. It became a soap opera. There was nobody was really a good person. It's like, that's the problem. It lost its humanity.
Well, for me, what's the difference between bleak and tragedy? See, I do find the ending of Seven Samurai kind of a tragedy, but it's not bleak. And it's a tragedy because of what these men sacrificed, but at the same time they knew what they were getting into. It's tragic that the village has just cast them aside. Okay, your job's done, go, that's it. And that's tragic, that's not bleak. So I think that's what it is Hollywood confuses the two a lot.
Right.
Hollywood, of course, Hollywood confuses drama for, good writing. So anyway.
No, that's a fair one. Comments on Grimdark.
Eloise asks, what is everybody's thoughts?
I think it's a very silly genre name.
And I'm mostly looking for what they term noble bright a little bit more nowadays. But honestly,
I've heard that term before. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, Grimdark is, I guess, okay for some, and some people find some inherent value in it. But I think the pendulum has been shifted so much towards that it's a breath of fresh air when you get something on the other side of the house. Oh.
Okay. Neostar, why would you do this to us? Seriously. What kind of cruelty would inspire you to inflict They Might Be Giants on us? Really? I'm just saying. I did nothing to you.
Particle Man.
Oh, shut up. Hi, Claire. How you doing?
Hi, how are you doing?
So what's your take on what makes a dark story still not bleak or nihilistic?
Dark stories normally they're like places you go to. Again, like your crucible idea, I think is really important. Let's see, am I echoing?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, hang on, let me find my... Oh, sorry, buddy. Down I go.
What's going on in there?
Oh, no, my little guy was on me, so I just have to find... You guys keep talking amongst yourselves. I'm gonna mute this for a sec.
Okay.
Let's
Well,
see.
no, I'm
Oh,
going to go back to, yeah, really what it is it's the humanity of the story. I mean, what is your underlying message of humanity in the story? And so many of these stories that are bleak, humanity just sucks. They're irredeemable. They deserve it. And that's really what killed it for me with Battlestar Galactica, the reboot, was when they retconned it that no, even the Cylon attack was humanity's fault. It's like, nah, fuck it. I'm done. I am so
and
done with
it ended
this.
up being this cycle happened before where the original 5 Cylons came from a Earth where the same dang thing happened.
Yeah.
And
And it just,
it's just like, really? So you committed this kind of suicidal cycle how many times before you got to the what was considered our Earth?
yeah.
Ugh.
And it was lame. And there was no need for it. I mean, it really is. I'm going to take it back. It comes back to the humanity of the narrative and the characters. And if your take on humanity is we all suck and the earth would be better off without us, yeah, you're going to write stories that are very much hate humanity.
Yeah,
And
that's what a lot of postmodern sci-fi has in spades right now.
well, yeah, postmodernism in general is anti-human. They don't like, they really do believe we'd be better off dying out. And the idea of human exceptionalism, that really is something special about mankind, that we have wisdom, we have knowledge, we have the ability to act beyond our worst instincts. They don't like that. And you can have the worst of all things happen, be it a zombie apocalypse or an alien invasion or, I don't know, a biblical apocalypse. It's how humans react in that setting. Of course, some people are going to be awful, but are there humans who rise above it and show why we deserve to exist, why we're not just animals?
Yep. And a lot of the characters that Ken encounters in Fist of the North Star, he helps change them for the better. At least the ones that do want to change.
I think we should read this quote.
Horizon Talker says, I think the worthless humanity in Grimdark is more a shadow cast by the socialist self-loathing of the author.
Okay, did you get it all sorted out, Claire?
Yes, I did. I managed to figure it out. I just couldn't find my headphones. I had to switch it to Opera so I could get to Steam Labs because it was working with Chrome, but it doesn't pop up automatically. I don't know what the heck. Anyway, I was just thinking about a story that's kind of dark. And this wasn't a musical. It was Les Miserables. It was Lillian Leeson version of it. And that one was very dark because it showed this man who was, hardened by life. He becomes this kind of a jerk because he's stuck in prison forever. Well, pretty typical of what happens. There needs to be some serious reform, still punishment, but also reform. And I just was thinking of a scene where he does rise up, but he doesn't really, because he mirrors what happens to him. And he has a scene where he steals, to tell the story, he steals from this priest, because this priest offered him food and a place to sleep, beats the crap out of him and steals the silver. And he gets caught and he tells a lie that says, okay, I got this silver from the guy, he gave it to me. And he said, oh, you didn't take the candlesticks. It was another silver item, and which silver in Christianity means redemption. And he tells him, he kind of gets this look in his face, and he tells him, with this silver, I have bought your soul from hell. And basically, use this to redeem yourself. And Liam Neeson does it so perfectly. He has this, you can see in his face, this transformation of, oh, I can't live the life I used to. And later he's given another opportunity where he could be living his normal life. He's redeemed himself. He's taking care of everybody, taking care of hoes, all the things that are good that you're supposed to do. And he ends up, there's a guy who...
You okay?
And was it Attack of Kittens?
No, Attack of my earbuds falling out. But basically, my baby's doing pretty good. He's actually just chilling on my lap, on my hip here. But basically, he could just live his whole life because a prisoner who calls himself Valjean, he's just basically a crazy person. And he can just let this guy go to prison in his stead, or he could claim who he was. And he decides, no, I have to go and see that. And throughout this whole story, there's all these dark stuff that happens because it mirrors a part of life that's real. There's a reality to it. I think that's the other thing. Dark settings can be people's reality for a lot of things. Like bad things happen. We get terminal illnesses, awful things that just tragic things, even just random things like car crashes. So it reflects reality, and people can get into it and kind of be like, okay. But the question again is, what do you do with it and how do you redeem yourself? So a lot of it is, how do we get that redemption that's promised to us?
Well, to bring it back around to the genre of the day right now that everyone seems to love, which is superheroes. As I had mentioned the other night, superheroes did not come out of a utopian time. They did not come out of an era in which the economy was good and we were at peace. We got superheroes out of a war and a depression.
The Golden Amazon came out of that era.
Right. And in those stories, Superman's planet blows up. And he comes to this one to make it and makes it better. Batman's parents get murdered. He decides, okay, I'm going to fix this. Or even if I can't fix it, I'm going to battle it till I die.
Wonder Woman brings her vagina to humanity.
Well, okay, that's a different kind of story. Yeah. Wonder Woman brings her vagina to humanity. Spider-Man, he gets powers, decides, well, I know that's the 60s, but decides, hey, I'll just use them for myself, and ends up getting his uncle killed. I mean, you go down the list, most of these heroes were born out of tragedy, and they didn't succumb to it. I think that's really what we need to focus on what makes a difference. I mean, superheroes are so often perceived as being this kind of fluffy, light, friendly, happy place with happy feelings.
Well, that's because people think it's all Adam West.
Yeah.
But I still do like that interpretation, just because sometimes you need a break.
Yeah, no, totally. That has a place. It really does have a place.
But at least that version remembers that he detects things and does investigations, and yeah.
No, that's very true.
So, is there a difference between grimdark and dark fantasy? Well, I can't answer that because I'm really not a fantasy reader.
I'll be honest. When I started hearing the word grimdark popping up, I looked into it and I heard the description. I'm like, this is dark fantasy. So I'm going to say no, there's no difference. Now, other people who are fans may tell me that there is a difference, and I'd love to hear it, but I see there's no difference.
Yeah.
If we're talking about, I think Rupert, is it Moorcock? I can't remember his name.
Michael Marcox, Elric?
Yeah. Yes. I know he was said to have come up with that. I only know via Razor Fist. I've not necessarily read it myself. But it was really, although that one, he was almost like pulling for pulp in a way. So what's the difference between pulp and dark fantasy, you think?
Well, pulp is very wide and it's more of a writing style rather than a genre.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Basically, pulp, a lot of them got started in a bunch of pulp magazines where they used, pulp paper to print stuff out quick, and you're pretty much
El Cheapo.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
you write stuff at lightning speed, and a lot of it was serials.
Exactly.
But were you paid by the word? That's the question.
Yes.
I think so, yeah. And so the really prolific guys that could go at terminal pulp speed, write 10 to 12,000 words and do it on a monthly basis, they generally made out pretty well.
But I am going to say one thing that nobody's talking about, or maybe they are
They're
now,
editors.
is that yes, those writers may have been writing at pulp speed, but then they had an editor to rewrite it.
Mm-hmm.
So it really wasn't it wasn't like L. Ron Hubbard, where Hubbard just had butcher paper, wrote one draft, and sent it off.
No, they'd vomit on the page, and then they had an editor pull out what pieces were actually distinguishable.
And they'd rewrite it often.
Mhm.
Oh wow! Do we know very much about these editors at all?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'd have to pull up their names right now to get them, but I know that August Derleth was one of them.
Yeah.
And real quick, there was a lot more women writing under pen names for various pulps than woke modern will ever tell you.
Exactly, because it
Oh
doesn't
my
fit their
gosh,
agenda to
that's
say
not-
there were a lot of women out there.
Don't get
Another
me
thing that I would
started.
have to say is, on that note, if you really wanted to go down that note, just the sheer number of comics creators that were female prior to the 50s. And it was actually the postmodernist Marxist Wortham, Frederick Wortham, with his Seduction of the Innocent, that put most of them out of a job.
Yeah.
Yes, a leftist put them all out of a job.
Why am I not surprised? It's the same thing about. Wasn't that the same thing about movies? Like that, it wasn't. Everybody said it was McCarthy, but in reality, it was a Democrat
Right, it
senator
was.
who did it. Man,
Yeah.
we get all the crap.
Yeah.
Well, let's face it, the left needs women to feel like they're a disempowered minority, otherwise they won't get votes.
Yeah,
Unless you're strong-willed enough, like ScarJo and what's her name, and just say, no, screw you, pay me, and then suddenly, whoa, what? It's like, no. There's a reason women commit crimes. Men commit crimes for sex, women commit crimes for money. Don't get between a bra and her money. That's all I can say.
Well, a man's best friend is his dog. A woman's best friend is her diamonds.
Ouch.
Well, that's the saying.
Okay, there was editor Harry Bates, who was one of the editors that you can look into. He did Strange Tales. Ashton Clark Smith. It was Jack Williamson did the editing for Robert E. Howard and Ashton Clark Smith. And there's actually a very big debate whether which versions were better, the original or the edited versions. What was the other guy's name? Farnsworth Wright was another one for Weird Tales.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, a lot of these, it was more than one person involved, as far as
Like
pulp.
all good works,
Boy.
usually.
But I was honestly say right now, with even to use the Expanse as an example, that's pretty much what I mean when it's like all these different settings are bleak without any kind of redeeming factors. I wanted more people to have like an inherent sense of goodness in them, and Holden shouldn't be the exception. Oh God. Yeah.
Sith, if you really want bleak, I recently finished suffering through Andromeda. M.E. Andromeda?
I don't know what that is.
They're gonna try to tie it into, I think, the next Mass Effect game.
Oh, Mass
somehow,
Effect
but they're-
Andromeda, yeah.
Oh.
they're gonna.
No.
Yeah, it's just like, oh my goodness. Actually, if you want to talk about like a series that could have built up to have some light at the end of the tunnel, but it didn't. Yep, Mass Effect is another example.
But yeah, again, I'm going to return to my premise that it isn't even necessarily an uplifting ending. It's the humanity of the piece. What is your attitude of humanity and the characters in the story?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one of the darkest, and I really wish he had joined us tonight, but I guess his headache got to him really badly. John, he was going to join us tonight, John Walsh.
Oh.
And he had a point about dark stories that, bleaker than bleak. Harlan Ellison's I Have No Mouth, But I Must Scream. Okay? I mean, AI
Yeah.
has destroyed everyone. You've got a handful of people left whose sole purpose there is to be tortured by the computer for entertainment. And I won't tell you how it ends, but it has the most uplifting human ending, even though it's dark.
Sorry,
And the
my
thing
phone's
is,
going off.
that darn computer though tortured the people like with their worst fears, but yet they eventually, yeah, they turn it around on it.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, again, you don't need the happy, everything's good, love conquers all ending for it to be positive. I think we've got a very skewed image at this point of what bleak is and what happy and optimistic is.
No, actually, it's really weird.
So
it's like we summoned you like a demon.
John's on the phone right now, apparently. He just called us.
I see.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, very
Oh,
strange.
do you need to bump off?
Oh
No, not at all.
Uh,
Oh no!
Okay.
Somebody's asking who Chris Chan is. I didn't want to know. I didn't want to know, but I found out.
No,
and I didn't
we're
wanna
not-
know.
well, the short answer is what happens when a single parent autist goes nuts. Single parent autist, say.
Chris Chan, who decided to swap sexes because it would expand her dating options, did some very vile things because a hot chick told him to. To put it that simple.
Did we have proof that it was that she put it up to him?
Yeah, the girl is a sociopath. It's actually, she was in true to form a real life vamp. I've talked about this in the past. There's a difference between a femme fatale and a vamp. A vamp is very much a vampire incarnate in a sense that she is there to pretty much drain the life out of a person and destroy them for fun.
Oh boy.
And for her own pleasure. A femme fatale can be good or bad, but you can't trust her. She's still dangerous, regardless if she's good or bad. Like Jessica Rabbit. Now, this woman who talked to Chris Chan, very, very attractive, apparently was one of those women who liked to get men to commit suicide.
Yikes.
For fun. And I mean, let's face it, I think there's a reason that women serial killers get away with it more.
Because everyone is kind of the way too nice to women and don't give them the death sentence quick enough.
Well, it's a bit harder in court to prove. Yeah, she pushed this guy over the edge to kill himself. That's a very hard thing to prove in court.
Well, we could prove half the time we can prove that a woman lied about something, but is she going to go to jail? No. Let's. Yeah, we're not going to go down that route. Anyway, that's a real grimdark. You don't need to go to fiction. You can just look court records.
Blip, 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 blip. I mean, again, people wonder why I write the Uplift Protocol. Well, yeah, because real life already has enough.
Yeah, nothing like. I think I'm kind of trying for my story. I'm trying to work out like a dark. It's a darker setting. It's not like grimdark or not even like dark. It gets kind of not bleak, but like it's harsh.
Okay, well, we'll throw it out there. What are you trying to work out?
So it's kind of like, we've kind of compare and contrast. We kind of have a very, like just looking at America in general, we have a very sheltered, cushy kind of thing that everybody kind of forgets. And then going overseas where there is no court of opinion, or everything's a court of opinion. There are people who have control over environments and that sort of thing, and really kind of raw and wriggly. Especially if it's more localized. So just kind of the story, although it's kind of got a nationalist spin. I hate to say it that way. Not like it explores it, I should say. it does become a story where you're like, you are thankful you live in America kind of thing. Not quite like because what was a really bleak movie? Slumdogs of
Slumdog
Slumdog Millionaire. Yeah, that was like, whoa, oh my gosh, rough. Totally rough. So not quite that harsh, but kind of like, okay, this is what happens with the legal system, what can happen with you find out, well, basically the main character finds out her parents didn't adopt her illegally. So technically her American citizenship is null and void. Yeah, it doesn't go very well.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. And then, yeah, it kind of asks her, like, well, what is identity and how does her identity fit into it? Instead of, everybody goes about the gender thing, instead of like, okay, if you're raised one place, but then you're transplanted someplace else, and what are the differences? Trying to, kind of a little bit of a coming of age story, but not, it's got too many things going on is the problem. That's okay. But it does have dark stuff. Yeah, go ahead.
John says hi, everybody. He did actually want to join us this evening. His internet connection has decided it's going to take an early vacation, and it's not working for him.
Okay,
so that's why he's not here with us this evening. I told him that if he's able to, if it comes back on while we're still on, to come ahead and join us. But he doesn't think he's going to be able to make it. So next week. Horizon Talker. I'm actually working on my first serious dark story. It's a cyberpunk story where humor is the tool to detect rogue androids. So every joke is suspicious with the potential for violence. I am suddenly reminded of, was it Heinlein? Where how you find out if someone is human or not is you tell them to strip naked.
Yeah. That was the Puppet Masters, as the aliens. I swear he was ripping on the Marxist postmodernist of the SFWA.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Of course he was.
Because they were all commies, and they all were either gay or into children. And Heinlein is this man's man, he's swinger and military, and he's very much a.
What everyone forgets is his wife was also a swinger too. But the interesting thing was he was very low key about it. He didn't necessarily, like, him and his wife, they had their freaky thing, but he felt like even though he was a man's man, he was also like, no, you don't just tell everybody that you do all these freaky deaky things. And actually he thought it was really bad to do that. And it's kind of interesting. It's like, I wonder what that makes of like that. Somehow if you're freaky, but you kind of, keep your freak flag, close to the chest, as it were.
Well, no. What it was that he wanted people to be adult about it. He thought that we could have free love, as the hippies called it, but his vision for it was very adult, very responsible. We don't have that. And you read some of his books where he tries to present this kind of non-monogamous world. The level of self-responsibility of all the people involved is shocking compared to the reality of what we get today in our fiction or in real life. So I think that was part of it. But yeah, in the Puppet Masters, essentially, the invading commie aliens, when they're naked, they don't get turned on by the opposite sex or adults. And that's how they could find out who was an alien, was everybody had to strip naked.
Oh no!
I'm going to need more brain breach. Brain breach.
As for Cyberpunk, I have got to stress that I want to punch whoever convinced everyone Cyberpunk is bleak and unhappy and terrible. That was never the spirit of the original 80s Cyberpunk. The spirit was, it may be a dark setting, it may just be a chaotic setting. The idea was culture was on fast forward, everything was amplified, things may be falling apart, things may be at war, or things just might be utterly insane, but the characters were not pedestrians. They were going to be the masters of their own destiny, and they would not succumb. And that seems to have been utterly forgotten. You know, you've got morons now who think the Handmaid's Tale counts as cyberpunk.
No,
That's my
that's
book.
drivel. Hey, I gotta head out, you guys. Y'all have a great thing. I've finally figured out how to make this work. You guys have a great night.
Oh, okay.
Alright,
Well, glad to have you as
Good
briefly as you
chatting with
did.
you.
Say hi to the
Oh,
little one
good.
for me.
Oh yes, yes. And he actually, when I was listening to it while I was giving him a bottle of milk, and he was like, "Hi." He was really cute. He was really sweet. All right, you
Excellent.
guys have a great night.
Good night.
bye.
Night. Bye.
Ooh,
Take care.
Okay.
but here's an interesting question from Dark Stranger. All right, here's a question. Can we have a story where we go from Frank Miller out of more darkness and insanity, working through it to finding the light and a true happy ending? Oof.
Oh yeah, sure. It's called Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns. No,
like-
seriously, it's Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns, where it is darker than dark. Everything's falling apart, and Batman's just trying to get fate to kill him because he's an old man and he knows that he's not going to be around forever, and he's trying to clean up old messes that he could never fix.
Mhm.
He's taking care of all of the old villains, and he's trying to tempt fate to kill him because he doesn't want to just die of old age. And then the worst of worst things happens to Gotham, essentially the apocalypse. It gets all the effects of a nuclear war except the radiation. And he finds himself a new life as a mentor to the next generation of heroes. There you go.
Me personally, I probably wouldn't be the best person to ask for as far as that question goes, because I'm already heavily biased against what they've done in some instances. I mean, Miller at least has done stuff outside of deconstruction, but yeah, as far
Well,
as
that's
the
because Miller
Alan,
actually likes superheroes.
yeah, but as far as the Watchmen guy, more
Fuck him.
the only example I can think of is that League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is like the only thing I saw from him that I enjoyed.
Another one from Miller, I'd say, were his Daredevil stories. Born Again, for instance, where Daredevil goes from being an addict to a homeless person to climbing out of the gutter and finding himself again. I mean, yeah, he goes from the lowest of the low to becoming a hero once again. So I think Miller gets lumped in with Alan Moore way too much. So, and yeah, The Room. I mean, oh, hi, Mark. That's terrifying. Was it, what was the other one? Oh, hi, Doug.
Hi, doggy.
Oh boy. Oh. Oh, but for me personally, if I am gonna look at darker stuff, I prefer it to show the exact opposite of what the setting is. Like if you're gonna have a dark setting, then have the nobility of the human spirit, basically. And
Yeah.
a lot of them don't really have that in terms of modern storytelling. It's just sad people with sad, miserable lives doing sad and miserable things to other people.
Yeah.
Well, being a despicable human being is not all that there has to be for a character. I mean, yeah, sure, if you want cookie cutters, that's fine, but if you're actually going to have a story, your main character can't be a despicable human being through and through. There has to be something. I mean, regardless of what you want, there are films out there where the main character is a villain, but they're not either. There's something about them that shows some form of humanity, and they're not just despicable for despicable sake.
Yep. Ah.
Like
And-
like
and-
Joker.
And even though I mentioned it earlier in the chat, I think Battle Angel Alita is a good
Yes.
example of having very
Oh,
heroic
yeah.
characters, but their setting is
Yeah, very
harsher.
dark.
And everybody's flawed. Everybody has a flaw. And including the people that are our main protagonists. They are extremely flawed individuals, but that's what helps them to be human.
The angel falls from heaven and is found in a pile of garbage, where she is resurrected anew,
Mhm.
and she is in, oh, what was it? Was it Iron City or Iron Town?
Uh, I believe so.
Where everyone is a sinner trying to ascend back to Salem,
Mhm.
heaven. They all want to get to heaven. All of them are flawed. All of them are sinners. And just her mere presence there starts changing everyone for the better,
Mhm.
bringing the best out of them.
Yep. And that's what even though Alita's a more, I would say, more of a cathartic motivational type hero or heroine, she has a lot of aspirational aspects that go along with her.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But it's more how her presence affects those around her.
And the presence is, again, goes back to that mix of the samurai code and Sasashi,
Mm-hmm.
where just the pure goodness and light of the girl affects those around her.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, postmodern doesn't like that. That's why they even shit on the movie adaptation when it was pretty faithful to the actual spirit of the manga
yeah.
itself.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the only thing is the comics fuckload darker. That's it.
Well, for all the reviews that I read, the big thing that they hated was the fact that she happened to have tits.
Yeah.
Oh Lord.
It's like, well, she is female. They do have them.
Well, I think we're coming to the last 9 minutes of the show. Is there a subject we should try and tackle next week? I think this was a very good topic. I
Mhm.
really think what it comes down to is the setting isn't the issue; it's the characters,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the underlying attitude towards humanity that makes all the difference. You know, you can have a bleak tale where they all go down fighting, and it still be an uplifting story.
Oh, and Trenton's asking, how about killing a few main characters while trying to accomplish something impossible? For me, that kind of depends on what kind of wheelhouse you're going for. I kind of expect more main character death to happen in, like, say, military sci-fi compared to, say, superhero space opera, you know? As far as, like, the good guy side, like, you can be sure that I will murder hobo most of the villains.
Postmodernists are leftists. It's almost inseparable at this point. But yeah. You know, the thing about killing off a character is it's by killing off main characters, it shows no one's safe. It makes the risk that much more palatable.
Mhm.
That's really what the function of that is, which is why
Well,
Precinct 13 is so amazing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'd also argue, and I know there's huge debate about this, but I would argue up until the last two books, Martin's rule about that was a good one. You really didn't know who was going to get bumped off in his books because anybody could get bumped off. And it was the way the story flowed. It's not until HBO got their claws into the stories and he was basically writing for them. I know he had his plans and whatnot. I would say it started getting the point where he was bumping off people to spite HBO. But the first three books, that was the thing. You were reading them on the edge of your seat because you didn't know who was safe. You didn't know who would die.
Yeah, and some of that does tie into the whole different kinds of narrative tension. Like me personally, I don't care if characters have plot armor and they make it to the end of the series because of plot armor. But some people, they'll lose that kind of tension if they know that these characters have plot armor and that they'll survive.
The power of PC.
Yeah, the power of PC. I mean, come on. How many of us, when we were kids or when we were younger, were legitimately shocked when Rufio died at the end of Hook?
Oh yeah. Hell, I was shocked when Luke lost his hand.
Yeah. Things like that.
I mean, Empire's pretty dark.
Yeah. Luke lost his hand. Han might as well have died at the end of that,
Which brings me to that theory that really Star Wars, what it's really all about, are old men you're competing to get the coolest death in front of Luke. I think that's what the
Exactly.
plot really was about. It's a bunch of old Jedis all competing to see who would get the coolest death in front of Luke.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
Okay, suddenly it just goes dead. Everyone's silent.
Well, I was just thinking about it. It's because when you're looking at readers in that way, you'll lose some of the people that once they figure out the plot armor's there, they're like, okay, all the narrative tension of will they or won't they die is gone, so I'm leaving.
Mhm.
But some readers stay because they're like, oh, I want to see how they MacGyver their way out of this situation. I'm one of those readers where I'm like, I want to see how they succeed rather than how they die.
And actually, I'm with you. As long as it's well written, even if they've got power of PC, I'm reading it for the story, for the adventure, for the how does it proceed? Like you said, how do they MacGyver their way out of scrapes and problems? The problem is when it's written very badly and they have power of PC, because then everything is ludicrous.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
but even with superheroes and everything, it's just I got so tired of everything being destroyed or deconstructed. Where
Yeah.
I just tell people straight up front, it's like, yeah, my bad guys are gonna die, but I guarantee you, if they're on the side of good and that they're a space dog, they're gonna be okay.
A space dog.
It's like, yeah,
Well,
space dog protection anonymous.
I think just as a rule, yeah, you don't want to kill crypto. I mean,
No.
that would just
Or Chewbacca.
yeah.
Space dog.
Yeah, you're kind of right. Chewbacca, the giant space dog, or space ape, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's
He's
not
named
like
after the dog.
Yeah, he's right. He's named after Lucas's dog, wasn't
Yeah.
he? Chewbacca. So cute, stupid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cute idiot.
Cute idiot. Yeah. Well, we will try and figure out what we talk about next week. But we actually had a few suggestions. One was should we talk about translating books to comics and comics to books? What that would be like. Another was should we give up on any more good adaptations of mythology? What happened to all our good adaptations?
they don't really know how to adapt things anymore. Oh,
And why?
but-
Yeah, why don't they? But we can get into that. We'll figure something out.
I do want to note that Underworld Dream is like, if you don't want to kill your characters, then you could still mutilate, dismember, and mentally
I saw
scar
that
them.
too.
And yeah, some of the bad guys get some of that, but some of the good guys also get, well, the mutilated part where it's like, how Draco explained it to me. It's like, man, the weave really likes to take people's left arms, don't they? It's like, yes, it does.
Well, my rule is that really for your character to achieve their goal and to make it mean something, you've got to put them through hell. Don't make it easy on anybody. You put them through a living hell, so that victory feels that much better.
Oh yeah, no, like literally, it's been. I've pretty much foreshadowed it. You know, Star is going to go literally have her trip to the underworld and come back. Going through the fire, basically. But that's also part of the more traditional hero's journey. They will have a price to pay, but it's not like I'm going to be like, oh yes, I'm going to steal this golden ending away from everybody. It's like, I don't want to steal my own golden ending away.
So let's see. I would say in the meantime, if you are looking to read something with that definitely puts a character through a crucible, but has one hell of a uplifting ending, you can go to Amazon right now and get J.Ishiro Finney's Scars for 99 cents.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
Oh boy. Well, here, I could link Scars for you right now.
Cool.
Here,
Sure.
I'll link
what about
that.
you, though?
For me,
You're right.
well, I've already, what I'm writing, I can definitely link that too here in a moment. But I also linked a few things below where I did recommend some stuff that has a bleaker setting, like Trekker, but they have genuine heroics in it. And also, the Lead a Battle Angel. That one movie, The Haunting, it had Liam Neeson in it, but the
Yeah.
characters in there help save the souls of all those kids. You know,
Mhm.
even though it cost her, her life, that was still something that connected. So there you go. There you go. There's the Scars link. But yes, if you guys don't mind different kinds of tension, where how will the characters ever MacGyver their way out of this one? Because like the first 2 seasons of Up Protocol is pretty much kind of like this big old Cold War between the villains and the heroes. But once season 3 turns up, it's gonna become a hot war.
Awesome. And did you put up the link for your website as well?
Yeah, this is the
Here
link
you
if
go.
you want to get Scars. And again, if you've already read Scars, please go review it. Trenton reviewed it recently, and I want to thank you, Trenton. I really appreciate that. And here we go. You can check out the Uplift Protocol at this link. And feel free to either put in the comments or email me about a topic you'd like us to cover.
Yes, please do.
I would also say the Conan the Barbarian books are pretty much, it's a grim kind of setting, but Conan himself and the others around him are pretty heroic, and sometimes they outsmart the enemy, and sometimes they brute force the enemy.
Telling you, Conan would have gotten the ring to the volcano in half a book.
Conan's just fun. I'm gonna be honest. He's just fun. But along those same lines, somebody else had mentioned Michael Marcox, Elric of Melniboné, and I would highly recommend those too if you haven't read them. In fact, Titan Books has 2 graphic novels so far. A third one's coming out at the end of the year. Adaptations, and the artwork is just absolutely gorgeous. There are some other graphic novels that have come out, and the artwork's good too on those, but they're more 60s, where these ones that are coming out are more Frazetta. So,
all right. Thank you for joining us, everyone. And I really need to go eat dinner now.
yes, I need to go shake and bake.
And do me a favor, please share this episode on your social media, because people don't know we're on the air anymore.
Thank
Yeah.
you, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Silly. Night.